attitude of food. Are you ready? Can we start?
Are we ready?
Oh my God. Oh, we're here. Okay.
We're here.
Well, after some interesting delays,
It's all good.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'll be a lot less stressed in probably 30 minutes. Right now, it's pretty up there,
It's okay.
but we're going to make it happen.
We try not to stress around here.
Try. It doesn't work too well for me.
Yeah,
I think it's an asset, though. It's all about how you use it.
absolutely.
It's a necessary feature of life.
For
A lot
sure.
of people like to denounce these things.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, I don't want to be too stressed or too anxious or too whatever. But I think it's so subjective to what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, if you're in the middle of something very challenging, like the stress isn't a problem. That's just what comes along with it. If you're
Definitely
pursuing something or like a very lofty goal, like to feel the pressure or uncertainty, like that's part of what you're pursuing.
Definitely.
So in this age where everyone's like mental health and not that those things aren't important, but I think they just have lost sight of that. Is like, if you're working on a car and you get grease on your hands, you wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
It comes along with what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So just thinking that if you created more understanding or more bias to, am I pursuing something that would produce these kind of emotions rather than being like, oh, I shouldn't have it.
I feel you. Totally agree.
That's where we're starting today.
That's where we're starting.
Well, hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Matrix Dialogues. I'm here with, oh man, I always fuck this part up. I say the same thing every time and I'm done saying it, so we're just gonna leave that in there raw for everyone. No, it's not new. I've known her a while, so it's not a new friend. But with Miss Alexandra Lynch.
Hello.
Hello. She has gracefully given me some of her time today as we have come all the way to beautiful New York to see some friends and enjoy the city.
Welcome to New York. How do you like it so far?
It's my second time.
Okay. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Very different.
It is.
Very different. Interesting. I'm fascinated by it. It's almost like intriguing.
It is.
There's very few other places in the world you see it. I like a culture that exists in this way.
Yeah. Great place to people watch.
It is. And I am a people watcher, so it's been interesting in that way. I don't know. I haven't got to do any of the cool, lame touristy stuff yet, though. It's been a whole lot of...
You know, I grew up in Jersey, but coming to Manhattan is something that I've done for a very long time with family and friends. I've never done anything touristy here.
Never?
I've never been to the Statue of Liberty. I've never been to the Empire State Building. I've never even been to One World Trade. And I feel very bad saying that.
Yikes. That's intense. Didn't you go to school here too in New York?
Upstate New York. So not in Manhattan. It was in Poughkeepsie, New York. I went to Marist College.
Okay.
But yeah, I know. So don't feel bad.
Okay. Less feeling bad now. Wow. That's a lot. Yeah, you've been here a long time.
Yeah.
To never do those things.
Yeah. I have to pick a day just to like do all of them, just to say that I've done it.
No, it's a must. I mean, it makes the list of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And again, like, I don't think while you're here, why not?
Yeah, exactly.
I think maybe for you, it doesn't feel as much of like a pressure because you're like, I could do it anytime.
Absolutely.
I'm like, fuck, I'm here 4 days. I got to do everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Try and pull off 2 podcasts and not lose my sanity in the process. So.
It's all good.
Well, we're just going to get right into the fun stuff, the questions, and see how much fun we can have with that.
Sure. That sounds good.
Okay. So Alex was kind enough to answer all my questions pre the show because maybe the instructions weren't very clear on either end.
I understood. Trust me. It was more mentally that I wanted to be somewhat prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's okay.
I was like, wow, this is the first. I've never had someone write me all the questions back. But it was good because it allowed me to take that, assess it, and, you know, learn that much more about you so that I could prepare even a new question set. Not almost, I did. I almost rewrote every bit
I hope
of it
I'm not
again.
too surprised.
Yeah. So that we could, you know, have a little bit better on potentially deeper conversation today. So Alex's dad is a pretty notorious guy in the boxing world. Mr. Lynch is very well known, and she's grown up a lot around of the boxing community. And so in my preemptive initial question, I asked her, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but something about, do you remember what it was? I don't remember the very first one.
What it was like with discipline.
Discipline. Yeah. And so you referenced that.
Growing up like that.
Yeah. And you'd said that being around professional athletes had really kind of shaped your idea of like what succeeding at the highest level was.
Yeah, for sure.
So my now revamped question on that is, Is there any moments or lessons that really stand out to you that shaped your view of success and failure?
Not really. I think just the way that I grew up was so different from a lot of people. You know, my dad being a boxing manager and my parents really normalized classic childhood for my siblings and I, but I grew up in professional boxing on the weekend. That whole world is just so different and a lot of people don't know it. And I thought it was normal. I mean, I went to school and I played sports like everybody else, but I would live in boxing training camps and go to press conferences or media days and then it wasn't until like the 7th grade is when other kids started to tell me, your dad's on TV or you do this, you do that. And I'm like, well,
You're like
I thought
different.
everyone's dad does that.
Yeah.
I didn't really know, but between, success and whatnot is that my dad, I really look at him as he's the ultimate American dream. He came from nothing, was born in Hell's Kitchen, raised in Union City, didn't really have much. School wasn't his thing, kind of didn't really pass high school, didn't go to college and, got into the working world, started his own company when he was 22, started investing in professional fighters and then started managing professional fighters. And he managed Arturo Gatti, who I call Uncle Arthur because he was very much like family, who he was a 2-time world champion. And that was a 15-year career that my dad managed. So the peak of my Uncle Arthur's career was, when I was a child. So I was being around him and all of this stuff. And what my dad was able to accomplish coming from what he came from is incredible. I mean, he's so inspiring and ambitious. And just looking at my dad alone, to me, that is success.
So I guess based on that, we covered a lot there. So I guess would you say that maybe just your dad's way of existing was kind of the
Oh,
epitome
absolutely.
of you for what success looked like?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get very emotional talking about my dad. So I'm very proud to be his daughter and to bear his last name, Lynch. That's to me, it's very special. Um, so in that sense, I idolize him and I really, my mom too, she was a stay-at-home mom and she took care of my siblings and I, where my dad kind of ran around in this world that wasn't really common. But my looking at my dad now is still, I mean, it's still, I find it interesting and funny that when we go to the certain boxing events, people ask for his picture, they want to talk to him and get to know him. And I was able to just grow up and he was my dad. He still is my dad. He's the best man in the world. So that's success to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned there, you said that you thought he was the epitome of the American dream.
Yeah.
And a man of integrity. How has his story from like that you've shared influenced the way you define your own path to success?
It's, my dad never had social media. Obviously, it wasn't a thing until a few years ago. He never even had a website. He never even marketed himself in his business. He valued his business on his reputation. And it was like, growing up, when you damage your reputation, it's damaged forever. So he really instilled in us this level of integrity as a person. You're respectful, you're kind, you treat others the way that you want to be treated. You the same way that you treat the CEO is the same way that you treat the janitor. You are nobody when you treat no one with respect. So that's the kind of person that him and my mom kind of shaped me to be.
So you just, I guess, to try and condense all that into a more simplified answer, maybe it would be that these holistic ideas of the way to navigate the world, such as like respect and kindness and integrity and mindfulness of our reputation, kind of have all shaped just the way that you now kind of just exist.
Yeah.
These are just those instilled values in you that you carry with you and how you navigate life and the way you interact with other people even.
For sure. I mean, they just kind of taught me that good things happen to good people.
Yeah. I like that, but I told you earlier, I would push you a bit. And that's where I just try to challenge the way people think about it. I think bad things happen to good people too.
For sure. Listen,
they're guaranteed to get through life without bad things.
Absolutely. But I truly believe that God puts you in situations that he knows that you can handle. Because at the end of the day, we don't really realize how strong we really are. until we overcome these obstacles and struggles in life. So bad things happen to everybody.
Yeah.
It's a matter of how you're going to overcome it.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's like what I said to you earlier when we were at the gym was that, the world I truly believe is better because there's evil present.
For sure.
As much as that the bad things do happen to us, that's usually where one we grow, but like you said, it's where we find out how strong we are.
Mm-hmm.
We need something to test our strength, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're at the gym and you're like, oh, I thought I could do 30 pounds on a shoulder press and you do 40s. It's like, well, if not someone pushed you to try it,
Yeah.
you probably on your own wouldn't have gone and made it happen.
Yeah.
And so whether you believe in God or whatever, whoever's listening, whatever your faith is to that, something in life will push you. And
Definitely.
That's where you can find out how strong you are.
Absolutely.
So you've obviously done a lot of, as you mentioned, well, obviously I know it, but everyone else doesn't. From running a marathon to high rocks to playing tennis to now prepping for bodybuilding. You've done a lot of very physically demanding things. What's kind of pushed your interest there?
Well, I think too, growing up around professional athletes, I saw performance at a very high level, a high elite level. So for me, I mean, sports was just everything. I grew up in the professional sports industry. I still work in the professional sports industry. I loved playing sports growing up. So for me, it was very hard to stop playing sports after, high school. I didn't play sports in college. So that athlete in me that still wanted to compete, I figured out how do I continue to do that? Well, I absolutely love health and fitness. It is like the number one thing in my life. Fitness is everything. I say if I don't get my workout in during the day, I'm a different person. So I just figured, how can I still, be athletic and continue to compete and succeed? So what I wanted to do was it's really, I started going to this gym in Jersey where it wasn't just a commercial gym. It was a gym that was built around community, and everyone in this gym wanted to compete. And I met some of the most wonderful people who I think I would call friends for life. And they were very into high rocks. And I was like, what is high rocks? And it was like this combination of like a mini half marathon mixed with a CrossFit event. And I always loved running and I always loved lifting. So I got into high rocks. And then these people were just so inspiring that every day that they were pushing to these new limits. And I was like, wow, I want to be around people like this all the time. They're inspiring me to become a better person and to, succeed and excel in health and fitness. So I did high rocks. And then right after that, I was like, I'm doing the New York City Marathon. Really, I did the New York City Marathon for a nonprofit that I'm really close with, which is Rally Cap Sports. It's a nonprofit I've been working with since the 7th grade. I teach people with special needs how to play sports. I'm just a volunteer, but my mom's brother, my uncle, was severely disabled. So I grew up with a family member who had a special need. So for me, that connection to other people that are like him, it'll be a lifelong mission of mine to help people with special needs. So they get the nonprofit gets a ton of bibs for the New York City Marathon every year, and they were kind of hawking me for a few years about it. And last year I told them yes, and they convinced me. So it was the New York City Marathon that I did, which was, oh my God, the one of the best experiences I've ever had. I hope everyone once in their life does it. It doesn't even matter if you're a runner. I've never felt more patriotic and more proud to be American that day, to run through 5 boroughs of the greatest city in the world, the largest marathon in the world. It was unbelievable. Seriously, I cried before the race. I cried during the race. I cried after the race. It was amazing. And then after the marathon, I was like, I want to get back into lifting. And that's where I decided I wanted to, start bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have maybe started making, I'm not getting paid for it, so I can't say making a living, but people who know me, I've lectured many times about the values of running. And like you said, even if it's just to do it one time, whether you do the New York City Marathon, and I think everyone should like attempt to do a marathon once.
Yeah.
Just for, I can't like tie anything back to it that's similar enough to like truly like that personal growth and development. It's hard.
The marathon was the first mental fitness test for me. It's very mental, running 26.2 miles, especially the training leading up to it. So that was my first kind of introduction to mental fitness.
Yeah.
And I think training your mind to operate a certain way for a race like that, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. A lot of people don't understand it, but it was amazing. I would do it again 100 times. Maybe not 100, but
Maybe
a few.
that's a lot. No, but like you said there, the mental side of fitness that a lot of people kind of like forego considering or
Yeah.
being mindful of. Because even in the gym, if you're doing a really hard set, it's like a minute long.
Yeah.
You know, you're pushing a really hard 6 to 10 reps. I mean, yeah, maybe
Yeah.
a minute.
Yeah.
Right? And then with running, it's like, even if you're fast, the marathon's 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like hours, you know, so to really like put your mind in this state of like, I'm going to continuously, despite there was a point in everyone's running time where it's like, you have this point where you're in, excuse me, so much like physical discomfort that like every step is more than intention. It's like your body's telling you like, quit,
Yeah.
don't go any further. Like
even the New York City Marathon, they say, is like one of the hilliest marathons. And anybody who's run it or ran it would know that 59th Street Bridge, that mile 16, will probably haunt me for the rest of my life. It was like a 1.5 mile, 2 mile ascent, straight uphill. And it was the only part of the race where there were no fans. So the only thing you're listening to is your breath and the runners next to you. And I started to cramp up at mile 16 and I'm like, holy shit, I got 10 more miles to go. How am I going to get through this? But I seriously told myself, I said, I don't care if I break a leg. I don't care if I pass out. I'm not walking. I'm not stopping, and I'm finishing this race. I didn't care how long it took me. And I was just going to just cross that finish line no matter what.
I think the beauty of marathons, especially depending on what kind of train up you did, some people, the most they run is like 16 or 18 miles in a train up, like in a you know, 12, 16 hour week long train up you do, is to look at 16 miles, like that's a long way in, you know, and it's just like, oh, there's 10 more. That emotion is like, you have to take it like so subjectively mile by mile, because then like, I'm sure at some point later you were like, oh, I feel great. Like more towards the end. Like in it varies. I always tell people who are newer to running, is like, don't make a decision on like how you feel on any like 1 mile. Like take it as a cumulative. Like how do you feel if you're running a marathon? Like how have you felt for the first 20 miles? Like if you feel really shitty at mile 21, like don't be like, oh, it's time to DNF. Like no. If you felt really good for 20 miles, like it's okay to start feeling like shit right now. And you know, because in 2 or 3 miles you may feel okay. Like, your body's in some fatigue. Like it's mentally a little bit challenging right now. Like, it's okay. So not to just make any irrational choices based on like the temporary emotion that feels like it's overwhelming. Like I said,
you have to trick your brain. You have to kind of tell yourself or operate a certain way. On some of the days that I had to run 18, 20 miles, I would say to myself, okay, today we're going to just go run 10 miles and turn around and come home. Like that was it. It was just like a numbers game. And it was just a way of telling myself, well, yeah, I'm running 20, but I'm going to run 10 and I'm going to turn around and come home. Little things like that really helped me get through the training.
And like you said, I think it's the first time people really have to fight like that mental portion of it, to realize that like I can do more than what my mind will tolerate. As I think a lot of people don't really have avenues where they can test their physical capacity outside of their like while their mind is running. Right? Because like I said, for a hard set in the gym, like it's a minute long, but like to do something for hours on end where it's an intentional choice, and then where your mind is even like, yeah, you know what, we should stop.
All throughout my training and even during the marathon, I didn't listen to any music. I didn't have any headphones. It was just me and my thoughts, and that was it.
It's a scary place to be. I do it all the time. I usually do it like at least once or twice a week on my runs. To just kind of check in with myself. People think I'm insane for that. Like, no, it's just
the power of running. I mean, I'm one of those people that I get a runner's high. Like when I'm upset, I go for a run. When I'm stressed, I go for a run. When I'm mad, I go for a run. And it's this release that you kind of get. Well, for me, is after those runs, I just feel so much better.
I agree. I also use running as a mental therapeutic thing. Like I know I wasn't able to run yesterday, and so today I went to the gym before we worked out, and I was just able to like, it's like, I don't care how long I go, or like how I feel right now, like, or what my heart rate's at. I'm not biased to that at the moment. I just want to like run and let off some frustration, some stress, whatever it is. Because always afterwards, I feel infinitely better than I did during. So from marathon, high rocks, huge cardiovascular demanding things, to now prepping for a show, or doing the going through those processes currently. Not quite to prep yet, but You know, earlier we talked about how you said you're missing some cardio.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I guess, yeah, I'm officially announcing I'm competing in an NPC bodybuilding show, bikini division.
Okay.
It's something that I wanted to do for as long as I can remember. I don't know what it is, it's so out of my comfort zone to be on stage and pose in front of people. I don't know, kind of like half naked in a bikini and heels. But I think just the idea of the mental training as well as the physical. I knew after the marathon I wanted to get into lifting, but I still wanted to compete. So I was like, this is a perfect transition into bodybuilding. I started working with a coach, my coach, Alyssa. I absolutely love her. We've actually become good friends. We took right after the marathon, we started last December. I've been training on a bodybuilding program since then, kind of got serious over the summer in a heavy cut. Come September, we started bulking. And then this January 1st is when I'm going to start full blown prep, hoping to compete, September, April 5th. April 5th is my show. So I'm a little less than 5 months out. But yeah, I mean, now I'm being told I can't run until January or do any type of cardio when I was running up to 40, 50 miles a week. And it was funny because when I was marathon training, I'm like, oh my gosh, I really just want to lift weight right now. I really want to just go to the gym and pick up a pair of dumbbells and just lift. So it's funny, like when you miss something and you start something else, and it's just exciting. I love fitness so much. I love challenging myself. I kind of told you the story before with my mom, and I was telling her how I'm doing a bodybuilding show, and she didn't really understand it. So I'm explaining it to her, and she was like, okay, let me get this straight. You want to stand on stage, pose in front of people half naked that you don't know, when I couldn't even get you on stage for your piano recital when you were 7 years old. And I started laughing and I said, that's exactly why I'm doing it, because it's really hard. It's uncomfortable. And I can never succeed in life if I'm just going to be complacent.
Yeah.
That's why I really like doing hard things.
Shout out to Mrs. Lynch, because the confidence of a 7-year-old versus now is insanely different. So we're in a different spot now. I thought that was so funny.
Shout out to my mom. She's the best.
So I guess just what you said there too, I like was, when the I presented to you today when we were at the gym in a different way, but how the lack of something will generate a want for it.
For sure.
Right? In this sense, you're not able to run. So you're like, oh God, I would just love to go for a run.
Yeah.
And then in the analogy I gave you earlier, which is in regards to success and achieving goals in life. But yeah, no, I think that's huge. I guess I'll ask a question that's for later, but I'll ask it now since we're here. Kind of what's the post show? What does the next endeavor of fitness look like for you?
Well,
ultra marathon?
I am not a plan B type person. When I'm training, I'm all in. Yeah. I'm committed. I'm all gas, no brakes. I mean, I think if anybody knows me, knows that I'm one of the most motivated, disciplined people that they've ever met. So when I want to do something, I'm going after it. Yeah. I'm not training to just train for this show right now. I want to win. Yeah. And if I place, I can go to nationals. And if I place in nationals, I can get my pro card. Yeah. So I want to see where this show takes me, for it being my first show. Also, I'm 31. So a lot of people that I'm competing against, they start bodybuilding in their early 20s. Yeah, much earlier. I'm a little late to the game, but that's okay. So we'll see. We'll see. I mean, I will definitely be competing for as long as I can. Okay. One race, one competition at a time. Yeah. I'm one of those people that, when you tell me something's hard, now I want to go do it. Yeah. Why is it hard? I'm very curious like that. I'm like, you keep telling me, a lot of people have tried to convince me not to do a bodybuilding show. The intensity of it mentally and physically, I understand what I'm getting into, but I'm ready for it. Yeah. Like, give it to me. And the more people tell me not to do something, the more I want to do it. Because now it's not to prove to you that I can't. It's to prove to myself that I can. Yeah. For sure.
I like that. My mom's a big proponent of that kind of behavior. Hers is slightly altered from yours. It's a tell me I can, and I'll show you what I can do.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there is more, I don't know, it's like a cross between me and my mom's, because mine's, like I said, a lot of the things I've pursued or tried to do have been solely rooted in curiosity. Yeah. Like, why is a marathon hard? Yeah. Why is it hard to be so strong? Yeah. Why is it hard to be jacked and run at the same time? Right.
Yeah.
What causes these things to be hard?
Right.
Outside of maybe the obvious things I can see, and as I've ran for a while, I can see like, okay, holding more mass makes running a bit harder because moving more weight costs more effort. So you kind of get in this like burning the candle on both ends game.
Yeah. And I'm a what's next person.
Yeah.
Like, all right, we're gonna do a bodybuilding show. Okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready. Let's go. What's next? So it's just it's a constant, you know, want and need to become a better person, to become a better version of yourself. It's exciting.
So bodybuilding for the next few years.
Maybe. We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Maybe I can talk you into running an ultra marathon after I do this one next year.
I'll never say no. Never say never.
Okay, so we'll move into the more, for me, challenging part of the conversation, at least.
Okay.
When we talked about it again today. We talked about almost all this stuff today, ironically, but we were talking about the modern relationships and then traditional values correlating to that.
Yeah.
And so you had said that your parents' relationship set a really high bar for you. So how do you navigate dating and relationships in a world that often definitely doesn't align with those traditional values?
It's so hard. It is so hard to date nowadays. I'm going to talk about my dad again because, yes, he set the bar very high for me. And, you know, my mom did too. They raised me to be, you know, a good woman. And they have a very traditional relationship. My mom was and still is a full-time mom, and my dad was and is the provider. You know, that's just the way I was raised, and that's what I saw. And they have such a beautiful relationship. So I'm like, okay, if this works like this, then that's what I want too.
Try to emulate that.
Absolutely. So, you know, I think dating nowadays, social media is hard. The online dating, not really my thing. Never really was. I would like to meet somebody organically, whether it's being introduced or you know, out. I think it's just, I don't ask for anything, but what I do want in a relationship is to be appreciated and loved, and to make make me feel really special, because I know that's what I want to give somebody else too, right? And everything else is secondary. You know, to be loved is to be seen. It's love is a beautiful thing. So, you know, and what I look for in a man is well, one, there's too many boys and not a lot of men. That's the problem with dating right now. And listen, girls are no better. I've seen some crazy stuff with, you know, girls who have not turned into women yet. It's a scary world out there when it comes to dating and relationships. I think a lot of it comes from how you were raised, for sure.
As we mentioned earlier, like insecurity.
Oh yeah.
And an emotional insecure,
for sure,
where everything's a little bit more wrapped up in, like we said earlier, is this intuition or is this insecurity? And I think when you're in a more emotionally healthy spot, you can get to a spot where, you know, like, no, I have this feel like this is intuition, versus when you're insecure, like trying to assess the two is like trying to be blind and tell me what color it is. Like you can't, right? Because there's too much of the other to know which one is present. I mean, it's true. Like if you're in an emotionally like unwell spot as a woman, like it becomes really hard to like internally validate which one is what, because they're both screaming so loud. I would honestly say I think probably maybe the insecurity screams louder than the intuition.
I will say I don't compete with other women. Like I don't do that.
What does that mean to you?
So, you know, like if I'm dating a guy and he still wants to keep his options open, then, you know, I'm not going to compete with somebody else. If that's what you want, then you know what? I'm not for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to be with somebody who's going to value my time and energy. And that's another thing. I don't really date. I don't enjoy it. I really value who I give my time and energy to. So oftentimes I'm a lover girl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I start dating somebody, it's taking a lot for me to go out with this person. I'm not going on multiple dates every week with all these different people. That's just not me. So when I'm like, oh, I think I like this person, I'm going to go out with them, I don't have a roster, you know, waiting for me, you know, to like, oh, if this doesn't work, I got somebody else. No, I'm respecting your time. And I would hope that you would do the same for me. So if you still want to keep your options open, then I'm just not a priority then. Not, you know, I'm not talking about like after 2 dates, but if it's going to continue, then, you know, well, what do you want? I know what I want.
Yeah.
I know what I want out of a relationship. So if it's not the same as what you want, sweetie, that's fine. You know what I mean? We'll always be friends. I'm not going to write you off and cut you off. So it's fine. But, you know, and I think too, with when you mentioned insecurity and intuition, a lot of people don't know what they want.
Well, yeah, we talked about that.
Right?
No, we talked
It's
about
it's either, hey, I like you, I want to be with you.
Yeah.
Or it's, hey, I like you, I don't know if I want to be with you, but I'm afraid to tell you because I don't want to get hurt. And this is comfortable and easy for me right now. And I also don't want to hurt you. So it's like, let's be honest here. Let's be adults. Let's be mature. And, you know, if we don't want the same thing, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll always be your friend.
I think, so there's two things you said there that I want to like kind of pick your brain on. Is one, we talked earlier about the portion of what you said. There's a difference in interest in something more than that. A lot of people are interested in success or learning a skill.
Yeah.
But then you start trying to do it and you're like, actually, I'm not as interested in that as I thought.
Mhm.
And there is this level of like attempt of effort and like trying to, and if you correlate that back to dating, like, well, like, I need to get to know someone a little bit more. Like maybe you're physically attractive to me, but maybe once I get to know you, I realize like, there's a lot more there that I'm not as attracted to. Or inversely, maybe it's the opposite, where it's like, maybe you're not super physically attractive, but like, oh, I've gotten to know you a little bit more. And like, oh, actually, like there's a lot more under the surface to you that I like, that maybe depending on what kind of person you are, man or woman, that is more important or higher in the hierarchy for you of values or things that you place that on. So I think that's interesting too. There's one, like you said earlier, a lot of people don't know themselves. So then when you go out into the world and you start looking for someone else to pair up with, it creates this inability to properly match.
Yeah.
Right. If you said, well, like I gave you the analogy earlier with the finite game of numbers, you know, it's like if you're trying to blank and blank equal 10.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you are, it's really hard to go and say, okay, well, I need to what to get to 10?
Yeah.
Are you at 3, a 4, a 6, a 7? Like none of those numbers meaning anything positive or negative, but you don't know what you're looking for.
Right.
You know, so then if I don't know what I am and I don't know what I want, then how the hell can I know what I'm looking for?
Exactly. I think the number one thing that I look for in a man is just a gentleman. You know, because if you're a gentleman, you're respectful. You know how to treat a woman. You have very good manners. And, you know, at that point, you know how a relationship should work. You know, my dad still holds the door open for me. He still walks behind me. When we go to a restaurant, he's the one that sits in the corner with his back to the wall, so he sees everything. And you said it before too. You're raising your son to be a man, you know? And when you were raised that way, you know, whomever is out there, you know, if your parents raised you right, usually you're raised to be a gentleman, to be a good man, you know? So I think and let me tell you, it's hard to find a lot of gentlemen. I want to say,
is it really that hard though?
I don't know. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place, but I would like to think chivalry is not dead. Like, can we normalize having guys buy girls flowers? I mean, I think that's so beautiful, you know? I mean, I think flowers are so beautiful. Like it's a it's a gesture that shows you like, hey, I like you and I care about you. I'm not looking for like these extravagant gifts or whatnot, but it's like that
the thought
to be loved is to be seen, you know?
I agree. I think there's two things there for me. Is one is like the chivalry on both ends. There's not a lot of women who I can say equivocally. Okay, not a lot. I won't do women that way, but I've seen a good amount of women lack basic manners.
Oh, and I couldn't agree with you more.
That very, I guess, feminine based mentality. Right, of, you know, being able to be guided. By, as you said, a man, but the boy thing is a prominent issue, as we mentioned. But
but listen, my dad taught me what to look for in a man, and my mom taught me how to be a woman. Like we said this before, at the end of the workday, I want you to be so happy to come home to me. I want to cook dinner for you. I want to raise our children. I want you to take care of what you need to take care of, and I'll take care of the rest. Because at the end of the day, we're in this together. And you know, I don't like the word settle down, because that sounds like you need to stop living your life. Let's not stop living life. Let's keep doing life together. Let's build a life together. Let's have fun and you know, just it's going to be us. It's going to be us, and we're in this together, you know.
On the flowers thing, I think just as a guy and
back to the flowers,
because it's something that is like plagued me before historically in this exact endeavor. Is I've seen where I think this is back to what we said earlier at the gym, being able to say what you want.
Yes, very
I
hard.
think that's where women will like breed animosity. It's like, oh, he just never brought me flowers. And it's like, well, have you ever said anything to him? It's like, well, no, he should just know. It's like, well, that's
Yes,
not how it works. 'Cause I've
right.
also been on the end where I've had girls like, hey, I don't like that. It's like, oh shit, well, I just tried to do it because I didn't want to be a victim of that
Yeah,
thing
yeah,
again. And it was like, no, it's not my thing. And it's like,
yeah.
oh, okay. So it's like two women out there who like, or men, if you aren't getting what you want from your partner collectively, have you actually voiced that that's what you want?
Let's talk
Because
about
then
it.
it's not because the same animosity you brew if needs aren't met, but you didn't vocalize them,
hmm
they breed this. It breeds the same level as if you asked them and they told you fuck off.
Yeah,
Like you're still just as bitter and upset and like hurt by it.
yeah,
But the only difference is you're the reason it's not happening because you haven't
right.
even voiced it. You haven't, like we said with telling the truth earlier,
hmm
you haven't even given them the ability to actually respond.
Communication is so important. And listen, we both said it before. I have a hard time talking about my feelings.
It's tough.
It's very hard to talk about how you feel, not just about somebody, but just a situation in general, because it's fear of rejection.
Mhm.
You don't want to get hurt. You know, it's like kind of like walking on eggshells. Like, am I going to hurt this person? Are they going to hurt me? Do I really want to tell them what I want or what I need from a relationship? But yeah, I think communication is so important. Eventually, you just got to rip the band-aid off. You got to be like, hey, listen, this is what I'm looking for. If it doesn't fit your wants and needs, then listen, we just go our separate ways. Yeah.
And like you said, there's like though it's like scary, yeah, and there's fear. It's like, well, do you really want that thing that you say you want?
Yeah.
Because then like if you do, then you're the reason you're not getting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't know, like maybe she is willing to do this or
Absolutely.
be there or do
Yeah.
that thing. But if you're like, well, I'm just scared to ask, like,
Mhm.
well, that same frustration and anger that you're building up and continue to pile on top of is because you're not saying anything.
Yeah. Exactly.
So give a person at least see who they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then like we said earlier, it's like maybe it doesn't work and like sure that's uncomfortable, but now I just know that much sooner. I don't have to wait. I don't have to sit here and like, oh, get 6 months, a year, a couple of years in. And it's like, well, now I'm finally ready to voice my wants. And it's like, oh, well, if you had told me that 18 months ago, I could have made my own decision. I'm like, hey, maybe that's not for me. But now I've made it again. Like nothing undealt with ever gets better.
Absolutely.
So, and then a portion I wanted to add was on the communication front is, do you think that a lot of relationships struggle because of lack of communication on the expectation standpoint?
Absolutely.
Because I think as we move progressively through a relationship, and I can speak on this one from my own experiences, like there's stages in a relationship that are quote unquote obvious to see where the expectations change, but I think there's a lot of ones where they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it's like, well, I want flowers. Well, have you ever said you want flowers?
Right.
I expected when we hit 6 months in that this would happen. Well,
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Because if not, I'm more and vice versa. Like I'm thinking, oh, she's going to do this when we hit this point in. Well, if I haven't voiced that to you, and now we're at 9 months in, and I've been pissed off for 3 months about something that I thought you were going to do that you haven't, but I've never voiced it, or vice versa. I think that's what really like ruins so many potential outcomes of relationships because of that lack of like, hey, the expectations have changed, but only for one person.
Listen, we're all imperfectly perfect, right? We all have flaws, and you can't. You know, if a guy does 9 things right and 1 thing wrong, you can't harp on that 1 thing. You just got to be like, hey, listen, this may kind of bother me a little bit. Let's talk about it and let's move on. But once you start, we said it before, once you start bottling up those emotions and that champagne bottle just pops off, it's going to be, an explosion. But it's yes, like my dad set the bar high. I understand that no one's going to be perfect, but it's just,
I think you just have to decide what's most important to you. What are the characteristics? Is like if you're looking for a partner, one is like what are the characteristics you care the most about, and then okay, of that, what are the like true like what do I want? What are the must-haves? What do I have to have from a partner to be happy?
I saw something recently and it was like, if you have the same core values, everything else, I guess, is like kind of secondary. Like, well, I look for a guy who's really good looking. Okay, well, looks change, right? Well, I look for a guy who has a great job. He could lose that job tomorrow.
Yeah.
So what are the core values? Do they want a family? Honesty. Like, let's be honest. That's, I think, is number 1. If I can't trust you, and if you're not honest with me and I can't trust you, I don't know how this relationship is going to work. That's definitely up there. I mean, of course, being a gentleman is what I look for, because usually with being a gentleman comes a lot of like good manners and whatnot. I'm not somebody I'm very open to things. I'm not going to write somebody off. I don't have any hard nose. I'm not going to write somebody off because I don't like that. Well, let me give him a chance. I might be too trusting with people.
Yeah.
And then down the road, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have trusted them that much.
Yeah.
That's the person I am. I want to give you a chance. If it works, great. But I'm not going to be upset if it doesn't. Because at the end of the day, there is someone that's out there for me. That person. There's someone for everybody.
Yeah.
Something my grandmother always said.
I like that. I think part of the modern dating issue is we're trying to like you said, the core value piece I agree with, but I think we're trying to date people too much based on interest. Like,
Yes.
oh, this person likes this
Yeah.
thing, this thing. It's like, that's not a value. That's just an interest or a like you have in
Yes.
something. And so we're like dating almost like we said earlier. If you're wanting like, hey, we're a team, we're trying to build out the most skill set. If I'm strong, I would want to find somebody who's like fast.
Yeah.
Right. And so versus like the way we've structured modern dating is like, well, I'm strong. I need somebody who's strong. I'm fast. I need someone who's fast because they're the same as me. We have mutual interests. And it's like, great, but that's really not actually what you need.
Right.
Because there's going to be like, there's still a hole. There's still a gap in the relationship now.
For sure.
As now it's time to be strong and now no one can be strong.
Yeah.
Or it's time to be fast and both of you are strong. Like,
yeah. And how can we make each other better? How can we inspire each other? You know, sure. I mean, I can be alpha, but I don't really want to be alpha in a relationship. I'm a woman. I'd rather be feminine. You know what I mean? I want the man to be alpha. So, you know, I think it's too is those core values. And then how can I help you? And how could you help me in a sense? And how could we grow together?
Yeah. So the question, one of the few questions you didn't answer, I'm almost positive it was on purpose, but I was going to ask it anyway. Because I just like to see where people's mind go with it.
Okay.
So it's a bit. I will warn you. I'm going to bait you a bit in the question.
Okay.
In a very nice way. The terms toxic masculinity, toxic femininity are thrown around holistically in our generation in specific. I think they're oversimplified. So in your view, kind of what do you think actually those things mean? One, and what are deeper issues that people should be discussing before labeling those behaviors as maybe toxic?
I think they're just too extreme, right? Toxic masculinity is this guy is so masculine, like it becomes toxic, and you know doesn't believe that like females should have a voice or whatever. Or toxic femininity is like these radical feminists that you see. I mean, I'm all for supporting women, but I also don't think men get the recognition that they deserve. Like I said, I'm very traditional.
Yeah.
I grew up in traditional household. I would want a traditional household from my own. But when it starts to become extreme, then yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So I baited you there, as I said, because I think trying to label anything as toxic masculinity or toxic femininity is almost kind of impossible.
Yeah.
Because the parameters, you did the best job I've heard at it holistically ever. So good job to you.
Thank you.
Most people, if you ask them, maybe it's partially because the people who get asked aren't maybe the most intellectually capable, but a lot of people really struggle to actually like define that in any real way.
Yeah.
Like, they say, hey, well, tell me what toxic masculinity is. And they're like, well, you know, like being a man. It's like, oh, just being a man's toxic. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's like, so just existing because I have a penis makes me at fault. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And then inversely on the same side, and it's like, there's toxic people holistically.
Totally.
Gender is kind of irrelevant to the scenario. Like you said, it's when it's anything that becomes too much.
Yeah.
Right. And I like that you said there, shout out to the guys, the actual men.
Yeah.
Not the boys here.
Yeah.
Here, not me, but anyone who may be listening.
Yeah.
I'm not doing myself any favors with that. But like, you mentioned it. You said in one of the questions you answered for me that being a woman is hard. And when I read that, I thought, man, like being a man is hard.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's like back to what you said earlier with my son. That's something I always like preach to him. Is I'm like, it's hard.
Yeah.
Like it's not supposed to be easy. Like what you're going to be expected to take responsibility for and take care of and provide for and guide and lead and teach, like is a lot. It's not this like easy cakewalk, but it's like it's not supposed to be either.
No.
And it's not valuable if it was easy.
Right. Anything
that I've ever found value in my life has always been on the other side of something insanely difficult. Right. And so I try to get him to, again, just alter his perspective to those hardships or those harder challenges that are awaiting him as he continues to grow up, whether that be solely with life or the expectations that are going to be placed on him as a man, not just by maybe me or a future wife, but also by society.
Yeah.
And so just trying to make sure I help get him in the right space to handle all that. But
I'm sure you're doing a great job.
It's tough. As we mentioned earlier, a long investing game.
Yeah.
You know, like you don't get to see it for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a woman is hard, man.
I'm not envious.
Yeah. And like what we were talking about before, it was like, okay, how do I be a kind, sweet person and not let people take advantage of me? Because if I have these strong boundaries and expectations, I'm a bitch. And then you try to be sexy. And if you're too sexy, you're too promiscuous. So you're slutty.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
Kind of like damned on either side.
Yeah, exactly. But like we were talking about earlier, it's like, you know what? I am who I am. I value my reputation.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be very tasteful. I would never want anything to haunt me down the road. Let's say I start dating a CEO of a company and he finds out, you know, that I've had an OnlyFans, which I don't, please. Absolutely not. That's gonna damage not only my reputation, it's gonna damage his reputation too. What if we had kids together and those kids in school when in the 4th or 5th grade, then they start looking at like mommy was doing crazy shit, you know, and her
she's out there living, boy.
But you know, I just try to be a woman. That's it. I try to be a good woman.
Yeah.
That's it.
You're one of the few women who I've heard express a mindfulness already to their potential future partner. Mm-hmm. Like, how do I want to? I've heard women, you know, express that about their like current partner, but I've never. I mean, maybe it's just this scenario. So I'm just admiring that because it's.
Thank you.
I've heard it from women again, and like in a dating sense, like, oh, hey, like I don't want to do anything to make you look better. I want to do something to make you look better or to enhance how you look.
Yeah.
Publicly, but I've never. I guess again, maybe just out of lack of potential opportunities to hear it. But yeah. I just, it's impressive to hear you have that like mindfulness and awareness of like, I don't want to, for my children, for myself, selfishly for yourself, obviously, but even separate of that, to say like outside of that, of me, there are things that I need to be aware of, so that I don't damage anyone else's reputation as well.
It's a respect factor, not just for myself, but for my future partner too.
I can admire that because that's definitely something that I put a lot of weight in.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an awareness from my significant other in that way?
Yeah.
Right. Is that something that you can be mindful of and actually put that effort into?
Yeah.
That's a huge one for me. So what do you think, what do women want?
Oh God, that's a loaded question. I think they want too much. I think they ask for too much. I do. I think women ask for too much. Women need to figure out what is truly important.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want? You know, is that what's going to work for you and what you want in your partner? And then go from there. What do women want? I mean, they want the money, they want the guy, they want, you know, the bags, the diamonds, the shoes, the this. It's all materialistic things. No, what do you really want? Yeah. You know, like I look at some, I'm going to say girls, not women. I'm going to say I look at girls sometimes and I'm like, oh my God, who raised you? You know what I mean? Like what are you thinking, you know, doing this or going into this certain situation? I mean, I know what I want. I can't speak for anybody else, but it's a loaded question.
I think societally we've seen the culture has pushed it there.
Definitely.
Where there's this, you know, 6 foot, 6 figures, 6 inches comments that are made. But like, well, it's like
social media. Yeah, let's like that.
I'm saying. Yeah, I think that's where it's like rooted in.
Mm-hmm.
But that it's ruined this idea of like, I forget who this podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about, you know, the effort your grandfather made to get your grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
Holistically is like the guy would have to be worth, between monetarily and success and whatever, like worth 5 times that to find a woman of that nowadays.
Yeah.
Like the standard for men, as you said, is like the expectation on us has just like been skyrocketed. Well, there's almost been, it feels like as a man, I may get some backlash for that, but that the bar for women actually has maybe moved lower.
Yeah.
Like as to where for me, it's like, oh, manflation per se. You used to have to be this good of a guy. It's like now it's tripled or 5x as to where like, you'd think, okay, like inversely, the woman correlation is the same. It's probably gone up, and it's like I'd say it feels like it's gone down.
Yeah,
like there are some not so great.
But you look at social media, and it's like, you know, a lot of people. I think men and women too. They compare their lives to others. They compare their relationships to others. Well, I want what he has, and I want what she has.
Yeah,
But is that really important? First of all, you don't even know them.
Yeah.
You don't know anything about their life. You don't know anything that's going on inside their home or anything like that. But I think when you stop comparing yourself and you just focus on yourself,
Yeah.
then that's going to attract what you really want,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
As we said earlier, is I don't want to, there's an emphasis on being truly like unique and having a sense of, oh, what was the word we used earlier in my brain? Oh my God. Oh,
Well,
authenticity.
authenticity
Yeah.
is so rare.
Because that so many people are too busy focusing on trying to play a character or a role or a stereotype because they think like, oh, I got to be the finance bro because that will get me a woman that I think I want. Right.
Like there's, no Wolf of Wall Street around here, you know?
Exactly. But more importantly, it's like, is that even what, like we said earlier, is that even what you want?
Yeah.
Because then you get that girl and then of course by kind of almost cause and effect, she really only cares about you because you make X amount of money. She doesn't actually really give a shit about you at all.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, well, I mean, I want you to care about me. I want you to actually like want to have more of that feminine presence to me and like want to maybe help emotionally or physically take care of me in these senses. And it's like, well, see, now you're actually finding out what you want because that's not at all what you said you cared about initially.
Yeah.
So it's like, what are the odds that it's like, it makes sense. You didn't get that.
Yeah.
So
just be yourself.
Yeah.
Be original. Like I said, authenticity is so rare. It's very hard to find authentic people. It's like, just be truthful.
I feel like we've like almost put this like negative aspect on it, on like just being you.
Yeah.
Like that just because you like your weird show or this one song, this thing that doesn't fit your box or your look or whatnot.
I mean, I like me. I work hard to be the person that I am. And I say, if you don't like me, that's a you problem.
I agree
Not for any other reason. That just, I am who I am. There's people out there that like me for that.
I think more people should aspire to be, or just learn who they are and be that person.
Be different. I love being different. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to this next one on kind of adversity and resilience. Whether it's in training or handling criticism, maybe professionally in the gym, has there been a moment where you felt your resilience tested the most?
I feel like I'm constantly being tested, but I love the pressure. I love the pressure. Like, give it to me. I thrive in chaos. Resilience is hard. I think I have David Goggins. I love listening to some of the things that he says. Or if you ever read his books, they're pretty good. Now, there's a lot of motivational things on TikTok as well, like quotes. I'm always looking at quotes too. As far as discipline, I mean, sure, I'm very motivated, but it's discipline that's going to get you through those hard times. I mean, talking the New York City Marathon, now training for a bodybuilding show is like, you have to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself that you can win and you can succeed, that all that outside noise is not going to matter. That's like belief in who you are and what you can accomplish, and mental fitness. Like, if you can train your mind like you train your physical body, you become unstoppable.
Yeah.
You become unbeatable. It's just, it's actually being mentally tough. That is what I think resilience really is.
And I think it's one of the most underappreciated or not sought out skills to, as we mentioned earlier, the side of fitness. You like quotes? I'll give you one that I always like to throw to people. It's by Alex Hormozy, if you know who that is.
Okay.
And he says the world belongs to optimists. He said, like, pessimists or realists are right 99% of the time, but they're wrong the 1% of the time it actually matters.
Yeah.
And he says that the world belongs to optimists because you have to believe it can happen before it'll happen.
You have to.
And so like you said there, like you have to believe in you. And I can testify that in my own life to anyone, is that the times that I've really started to grow or achieve the thing that felt insurmountable or so far away was when I just like put that faith in myself. I was like I know I can do this.
If you don't believe in yourself, who's going to?
Yeah. And it's like, there's another good quote he has off that, because since you're a quote person, is that the people who need to be rooted for the most never get it. Meaning, like, when you're in this, like, the start period of a business and you're trying, like, you're barely making ends meet and like the costs are heavy to the little bit of revenue you're making, like, no one cares about your brand.
Yeah.
Right? They care about you when you're the billion-dollar company or $1 million company that's popular and popping and everyone's buying your stuff.
Yeah. Or you're on stage, you know, holding that medal or whatever.
Yeah. But when you were still doing the same work and working at the same effort level and consistency that you were before you won or did really well, like, there was no one to cheer for you.
Yeah.
So you have to be the one to cheer for yourself in that manner.
You win or learn. You never lose. That is like.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
It is. Yeah.
That's also by Alex Ramosi, by the way.
Is it really?
It is. He says it prolifically. I'm maybe too much of a fanboy of
his.
But it's his mentality and approach to the world. I feel like I think so differently, and it's always fun. I find it challenging. There's always like little things from certain individuals, and I'm like, oh, I like that. Like, I like quite a bit of stuff by David Goggins, by the toughness, resilience, like, man the fuck up. If that's too brash for you, then you probably need to man the fuck up. But, he says, like, there's never a loss in life. You either win and you get the thing, or you learn what doesn't work and then you do it again.
Yep.
And then if you lose, like, you learn again.
Yeah.
Every time you learn, you're that much closer to actually figuring it out, which then will result in you winning.
Yeah.
And so this concept of win or learn, instead of this idea of like, oh, I lost. It's like, no, you just learned that, okay, you need to change something else.
Yeah.
You need to alter this, or in that area we need to, you lose in the show. It's like, oh, okay, my glutes maybe weren't good enough.
Yep.
Or was my back as good as it could have been? Or was the, like, okay, great. So that's where we need to place some emphasis on.
Yeah.
Even
with this bodybuilding show, like, I know I'm going to win. That's how I'm training. That's how my mind is. Like, there is no plan B. I don't train to lose. I'm training to win.
Exactly. I like that. Yeah. Again, just, you have to believe in you before you can expect anyone else.
Yeah. I guess you could say be a little delusional, but I just believe in myself so much that I can accomplish so many amazing things in life that nobody or nothing, no one or anything is going to get in my way.
It's only delusion if it doesn't work.
Exactly.
You're only crazy if it doesn't work. You can be crazy till it works.
Yeah.
And then when it works, they want to know, how'd you do it?
Yeah.
What's the secret?
Yeah.
How can I do that? Give me the tips. So I'd rather be seen as that delusional or crazy person in the meantime, because then they'll all just be asking me how I did it. Write the book. Tell us how to do it.
Yeah.
Earlier, something we did hit on a lot, vulnerability. You said that strength and some vulnerability play a part in your life. How do you try and maintain that balance, not only in the avenues of fitness you pursue, but just as a woman as well?
I think women really struggle when we were talking about before about comparing themselves to others. Like, everyone wants to be like a gorgeous model. Everybody wants to have this perfect body. And at least once in their life, I'm convinced that a woman went through body image and insecurities about the way that they look, right? Everybody wants to be skinny. For as long as I can remember, I chased this idea of being skinny. And then one day, a few years ago, I don't know what came over me, but I just said, I want to be strong. And it was like a light switch. My whole perception of health and fitness completely changed. I got into the best shape that I've ever been in my life. And it was just changing my mindset of being like, I just want to be a strong woman. And that's when I really started competing more, whether it was High Rocks and Marathon and now the bodybuilding show. My idea of food has changed, the way I fuel my body for performance, not starving myself to look a certain way or to fit in something in particular, but just being strong, just mentally and physically.
Yeah. What about the portion we talked about earlier, the vulnerability?
In what way?
I think in any aspect that you can see that it's a challenge for you. Like, where is it you can say it's been a challenge for you on the vulnerable side? Like, in being open about maybe what your expectations are, maybe with your coach. You mentioned to me about that first coach. I wanted to ask you, but I didn't get to it.
Oh, yes.
Was that like a lack of maybe the proper communication on, like, hey, this is what I want, this is what I think?
Honestly, I think I just wasn't ready.
Okay.
I wasn't ready for me. I didn't believe in myself at the time. Now I believe in myself. Okay. So when I first went out to train for a bodybuilding show years ago, I was one weekend and I quit. I was like, I can't do this. My coach, there was no connection there. It bothered me for a long time. I was like, I am going to do this again. I am going to get on stage and I'm going to do this again. And that's when I was able to get with a coach now who's really inspired me to just do amazing things in life. Well, especially with bodybuilding, but also just get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's what vulnerability really is that get out of your comfort zone, do hard things. And if that means getting on stage half naked in a bikini and posing, then do it, you know? And you can't.
I think because it's rooted in that. It's like there's
Yeah.
vulnerability. Like
Take
you're
risks.
exposing yourself.
Yeah.
You're taking on little judgment. Like you're welcoming it. Hey,
Yeah.
judge me. Tell me
Yeah,
what you
yeah,
think
yeah.
of me. And that's that. I think that's kind of the epitome of vulnerability.
Well, now it's like we're a bodybuilding show. They're going to pick apart every single piece of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And if they were going to do that to me 5 or 6 years ago,
Train wreck.
absolute train wreck. It would have been really messy. But now I'm like, okay, how do I get better? Tell me what's wrong with it, and I'm going to improve it. I think just that's being vulnerable, you know?
I like that. So we talked about some of the struggles of being a woman in a culture with conflicting expectations. How have you cultivated self-worth? You kind of touched on it there.
Yeah.
But amidst the pressure. And what advice would you give to maybe girls or other women struggling?
Self-love is not selfish. You have to put yourself first. If you are not in a relationship with yourself, how could you be in a relationship with anyone else?
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that I say is, if you wrote down all the things that you love in life, how long would it take for you to write yourself? Truly, think about it. I love this, I love that, and I love that. I love the when Snoop Dogg quoted on when he got his, what was it, that Hollywood star? And at the end of his speech, he goes, and I want to thank me. And I want to thank me for doing everything. And I want to thank me for getting through it and never giving up. It's so true. You have to sit there and you have to be like, okay, how am I going to love myself? And then everything else around me is just going to get better.
Definitely. And I may sound like an asshole in this way, but I don't feel like there's a shortage of that in the woman culture. There's this very much love you, girl, do your thing. I will say that something you said earlier that I meant to say was, I think the brutalization of like woman to woman is insane.
That's awful.
Like
it's awful.
The judgment or the like, like, oh, I'll tell her hair looks better short because really she looks beautiful with long hair and I want her to cut her hair.
Yeah.
And like they're like the manipulation, the judgment. I mean, I think men are a little bit, at least in my experience, more like, well, like, I'll just fight you.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, like we'll get over it or we'll be friends.
Yeah.
And that's it. But with women, it's like this long,
it is
narcissistic
vicious.
picking. It's insane.
It is vicious. One thing my mom told me from a very young age, and she said, Alex, you are going to deal with women for the rest of your life, no matter what age it is. But I received a really nice compliment the other day, and I've actually haven't stopped thinking about it. And I usually don't think about compliments like that. But I met a woman at the gym, and we just started talking, and she started following me on Instagram. A few days later, I see her at the gym again, and she comes up to me and she says, I just wanted to tell you something. I love your Instagram. I love what you post. I love the pictures that you share with everybody. I just wanted to tell you I really like it. But what I love the most is that all these women who comment on your pictures that are so supportive of you, that's when you could tell that you're a girl's girl. And I was so taken back. I was like, wow, thank you. I didn't really think of it that like, but how could you not support other women? Yeah. That's what we're here for. Not judging each other, not taking each other down. It's really to uplift and to make each other better and support other women. So I just sat there and I was like, wow, the fact that you noticed that, like, yes, I do know I have an amazing supportive group of friends and family, and a lot of them are women. But it was so humbling. It was very humbling.
Yeah. No, I think it's maybe the 80-20 of like that culture is that it is like this vicious, malicious
it's just
environment.
Mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just so mean.
And it's like, it's like accepted. Like it's very like, known. Like there's no woman I could speak to that would be like, oh no, I have no idea what you're talking about. They're like, yeah, I know those bitches.
Yeah. Well, also too, how about say, well, men love bitches. I'm like, really? I guess I'm really never going to find someone.
Fuck. We do not.
It's not. We do not. Let's make a correction right now. It's confident women, not bitches.
Yeah. I mean, so I disagree with you a little bit, but I think that's because maybe the type of man I am. I don't think that like a woman with boundaries or anything like that is like something negative. I don't think she's a bitch.
No.
Like I think again, if like we said earlier, like what's a deterrent? Like there's common levels of it. One is like status. Like any woman with status just by default, usually because of how women mate, which is up and over monetarily. So women successful.
Well, how about men who like compliment a woman or hit on them, right? If someone hit on me, I'm nothing but polite. I'm like, wow, thank you so much. Like I, might say like, I'm seeing someone, or sorry, I don't have time to date if I'm not interested, but I'm going to be nice about it, right? I'm not going to be like, ugh, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. There are a lot of people a lot of girls that do that. It's like, that guy, it just took so much courage to come up to you and compliment you, and you were so rude, just maybe just be like, oh, thank you, I appreciate it, but no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can tell and then again, I think for my advocation for men, I won't make a lot of them because I think a lot of them fucking suck. I'm a man, so if you don't like me, you can fight me about that. But it's tough because again, like just as much as we said on the woman's side, like I want to be tasteful, but I want to feel sexy, so I want to taste this. It's like, oh, well, you're a whore. But then I think on the man's side, it's like, oh no, like you go talk to this girl, and then like you get like just shit on, right? Like, oh my god, what are you even doing speaking to me? I mean, I've heard some, even me. I mean, I'm not like a 10, but I think I'm a decently attractive guy, and I've been told some pretty horrible things. But then on the other side for men, this is my only advocation to them. This part right here is we've been told the cultural sell of like, oh, women want just to see if you're persistent. So I think these guys that become this like pushy, annoying dude, it's just because they're buying into what they've heard.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I've got to go up to her 4 more times now. She's just playing hard to get. It's like, you're emotionally immature, and I'm painful for you. But I also get how you got there.
Yeah.
Because like you just have believed what you've been sold.
Yeah. I think guys are also just fed up with women at this point. Honestly, I think they're intimidated to come up to women. I think now they're just kind of like checked out.
There was a data point as I mentioned to you earlier, surprisingly enough, a data nerd, right? But I do love it and use it in every aspect of my life, maybe to an unhealthy standard. But it's like 73% of men are unwilling to make the first move.
That's crazy.
Because like, again, in the breakout next data point was like why?
Yeah.
And some of the bigger portion was like 30 or 40% was like fear of rejection.
Course.
But then in the other ones were like you said, like sick of the like almost the like wildest comments, but like they were just genuinely wrapped up in like, I'm tired of this dumb shit.
Yeah.
Of like hey, like it's okay if I'm coming on you, like, are you the ones that are offended then by like, are you making a move on me? Like, I'm just trying to let you know, like, this compliment, like just to inversely be polite.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why are all men shit? It's like, well, because they're not. But again, we've been similar to women, like someone's done not so great things to us and we haven't been able to recover from it.
Yeah.
And so then now you see this altered version of this person.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that woman who probably was really sweet and naive and nice, like, well, somebody took advantage of her.
Yeah.
And now she's never been able to recover from it.
Right.
So now she's this like malicious, like overly anxious, insecure woman who feels like if you don't text her back in 20 minutes, you're texting 6 other women. But like, again, it's just because she's never recovered from that.
It's
that
I
challenging
think
thing.
Emotional trauma that a lot of guys and girls that they just can't get over a certain past. Like if you got really hurt in a relationship before, you can't take that into your next relationship. You got to grow and learn and move on and not think that your next person is just going to be like the last person,
I was going to ask you, this was like it's one I've been battling a lot and something I wanted to ask another, like a woman and have a conversation with about is, do you think women, let me make sure I preface this the right way. Do you think women come out of the other side of hardship at the same rate of success as men? Like, I think as part of being a man is your ability to like, to be able to take the beating, right? Like that's, I think, what makes you a better man, right? To be able to get beat down and be able to get up. Like, I think that's a needed trait as a man, because either whether it's pursuing a woman, like you're going to get rejected. You're going to get told no, 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 no. Like, why do I think a lot of sales guys date well? It's because they're used to being told no.
Yeah.
And they know how to just, okay, well, go, I'll ask someone else. I'll ask someone else. Like, you have to be able to handle like losing per se over and over and over again. Like, I think that's an asset as a man.
Yeah.
I don't know if I didn't say inversely that that's an asset for women.
I think it's different. Yeah. I think it's definitely different. Obviously, let's say like we're talking about a breakup or something, it might be very, very emotional for the woman at first. And then she kind of just, moves on. It might be the guy moves on first, but he gets emotional like 3 or 4 months later. You know what I mean? Coming out of hardships as a woman, I think it is different than a man. Also, I think it depends on who you are.
Agreed.
It depends on who you are. Are you mature?
A huge variable to that, right? Because there are some women, like you said, that are very like alpha, very like, I'll go get it. That are even more so than men. So I think they manage the hardship a bit better. But a more, I guess, traditional or holistically feminine woman, I think, is going to struggle a bit more to come out of that hardship. Again, especially if you separate like relationships, like life hardships. They're going to be more impactful to them.
Yeah. I think women are just like more emotional in general.
Holistically.
Yeah. So.
But I think, again, it's like it's necessary. Like there's a reason like that, as much as we've over condensed this, like a woman can do anything a man can. It's like, sure you can. But there's also still things that I can do better than you, and there's still things you can do better than me.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
I'm not in that way. I'm not trying to compete against women in that manner.
Mhm.
You know, like I think that's the I know I had a question on competitiveness, but I kind of just removed it because I didn't like my ability to navigate it. But it's kind of naturally come up here. But I think that's my comment is I don't feel the need to compete with women really in anything, but especially in the things that are like your area. Like, I'm not trying to step into your space and like compete against you in that way.
Yeah, I don't want to compete with you. That's just
whether you're my partner or my friend or anything. Like that's just not like.
Yeah.
Hey, like I don't want that childbirth shit. You can have it.
Yeah.
Like I don't need it.
Or how about in relationships that you hear that there's a competition for success in their careers?
Yeah,
I don't understand that. I would never do that to my partner.
Yeah, I think it comes out of like an intention.
Yeah,
like
maybe.
it's not. I think it's not. And that's not the intentional like pursuit. I think it's though maybe, wow, I see him winning or her winning a lot, and like I want to win. Like that. And so then unintentionally it becomes this like. Maybe you start making undercutted comments.
Yeah.
But it's out of your jealousy and you're like, not jealousy, but like you're like, I admire you for that, but like, why can't I get that?
That just means that you're not secure with yourself, but also that you don't really care as much for your partner than you thought you did. You know what I mean? If I'm with my partner and he is succeeding in his career or whatever he's doing, I would be nothing but proud. Yeah. You know what I mean? Why would I want to compete with that? Because we're in this together. I don't want to.
I agree. No, I think what you're saying there is true though. Because it's like the fear of like, oh, why does he want to be all good at these things? Is it because maybe he wants to go on and leave me, or is he trying to do this? Like, why is he trying to learn how to cook this food now?
I got it.
I get it. Like, and again, maybe that's not the intentional measure.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think it's driven maybe by some insecurity of like something in them is feeling off, or maybe historically something was off when that behavior was present, and then it's never been dealt with.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I agree.
Okay. Well. Embracing authenticity. Your quote, I am who I am. If you don't like me, that's your problem. Huge agree. I could not.
I mean, not to put it out there in like a rude way. I'm more or less saying, or we talked about it earlier. Someone's opinion of me that doesn't know me, it doesn't matter to me.
Yep.
The people I care about and their opinion of me, sure. I want you to say, Alex, you're doing something wrong right now. You know what I mean? Like, or, but I value my reputation. I would want, nothing but nice things to be said about me.
Yeah.
But if you're saying things about me and you don't know me, get to know me first. Yeah. And then maybe say those things if you really feel that way.
Agreed. Yeah, no, when you mentioned this earlier, this is something I thought about. It's like the amount of, and it's tough to do. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy by any stretch of the imagination, especially if you're a more like publicly facing person, like you pursue something on social media, or you have a job that puts you maybe a little bit in more of a public setting than to the public as a whole. More like there's more eyes on you is what I'm trying to highlight there. There's more people taking stock and making assessments, judgments of you. Maybe it's not easy to ignore that, but yeah, I think there's maybe it's a handful of people that really like I am rooted by like their opinions of me.
Yeah.
Anyone else, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because
I'm just very unbothered.
Yeah.
Like I don't let things get to me.
Yeah.
I don't let what people say about me get to me. Like if you don't want to date me, fine. I'll find someone who does. Yeah. That business deal that didn't happen. Okay. There'll be another one. Yeah. Or like someone's who your friend stops being your friend. Well, you know what? God got them out of your life for a reason. It's kind of how I'm looking. Like I just don't get stressed, or worry. Try not to worry.
Yeah. I think the one thing that causes me to really worry. Hold on, let me finish. So for those 5 people, yeah, it's like I really care. But anyone else, like you said, I don't know you. Like I wouldn't. Why? It's like if you just think about it from a logical perspective of like, how many people's opinion can you really care about and expect to like be mentally sane?
Yeah, yeah.
If
you can't make everybody happy.
10,000 followers on Instagram, you think you can care about what 10,000 people think of you? Even think about it like, we'll scale this down way more. Like if you had 100 people that you were trying to balance what they thought of you. It's not like you're going to go crazy because you're never going to get all of them happy anyway. So it's like really start with what you said earlier, yourself, but then the few people who really like are the most centric to your life. Like, yeah, it's natural to care about what those people think about you. They know you, see you in a different light than everyone else does.
Mhm.
That's what makes the relationship create that will of like, hey, what do you think here?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to trust and confide to like hear your opinion of this because you see things that no one else does.
Yeah.
You know me to a capacity that other people don't. So I think valuing those people is very natural, but not getting too wrapped up, what we said, is then this everyone else bias.
Yeah.
So the question was to what do you do to kind of just stay rooted in your authentic self? What's something that you found works for you?
I just focus on myself. That's it. When you're in constant competition with yourself, you don't have time to compete with anybody else. It's I make the choices in my life. I'm the one that's working towards the goals in my life. It's you versus you. It sounds cliche, but it's so true. You just have to worry about yourself. Control yourself, not others.
Yeah. So we talked earlier too about competitiveness and the impact of that. And so, this kind of that's that. But what outside of relationships, so like in sport, you find like competition is healthy. What you've mentioned that you were an athlete, you played sports growing up, and you kind of had that competitive urge, kind of like still feel like festering inside you, and so that's what kind of led you to pursue other like physical pursuits. Kind of what do you think generated that, other than obviously like maybe being around it, but then how do you manage it to maybe not roll over in an unhealthy manner, like to a relationship? Like how do you segregate it? Because I think that's tough for some people, is to separate the two. Of like, oh well, if I go this hard at work, again, maybe the unintentional consequence, why I come home and it's like, well, I haven't cut it off yet.
Yeah.
So what's something maybe that you found that works for you to really just keep it to competing solely against yourself versus competing with others?
Well, I guess if you're in I can't say, but if you're in a relationship, then, focus on yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
Choose you, and then everything else around you will choose you, right?
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship and somebody's not supportive of these competitions that you're doing, but those competitions are what you really want to do, then maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship with that person. Surround yourself with supportive people, focus on yourself first, and then, along the way, figure out what needs sacrifice and compromise. Because and if you're in a relationship, there's got to be some sort of sacrifice and compromise. But if I'm in a relationship, I never want my partner to stop doing something that makes them happy. If work is work, I get that. I don't need, like we talked about it before, I don't need you blowing up my phone all day, texting me all day long, go on with your life and your career and your ambitions, but just know that I'm gonna see you later, or we have plans, or like you're gonna come home, or whatever. But you got to focus on yourself first, and then that's the healthy part, and then the relationship comes with that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just an interesting thing that I can admit I've battled with, is like, how do I manage this thing that makes me really good at something else, but then in another avenue, like we said with competitors, maybe it makes me really great at my job, but then when I come home, I unintentionally find myself competing, and like trying to like know when to shut it down and cut it off. Again, I think it's just like a trial and error, a practice. I think first of it is being aware and mindful that maybe it's even happening, but then you still need someone on the other side of it who can voice it to you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think to me, the main role of a partner is wrapped up in someone who sees who you really are, and they continue to invite that version of you to the surface all the time.
I love that.
And then even the ways that it's not present, they remind you, maybe in ways that aren't always the best, but that like, hey, that thing you said you wanted, that you wanted to be, that you want to emulate, that person you're trying to become, like that's not who you're being right now. And so that's where you like have to be willing to say maybe those harder things, because like that's your job.
Yeah.
If I love you and I care about you, then I want whatever you want even more than you want it.
Totally.
Right? Like, hey, you said you want to be the best mom, best wife, best whatever. Like, hey, right now in these ways, and like tactful and whatnot, but like you're struggling in those ways. And maybe you aren't aware of it, because maybe like you're busy, and it's just, we struggle to see ourselves in the most pure way. I think that's why we need someone else to be there for us. Like, that's what helps us.
Yeah, for
Or,
sure.
like you said you want to be this kind of husband or father, or have the success in your career. Like maybe you don't realize that you've kind of like become complacent in this way. That's not a fun conversation to have, but if it's like, if someone could have that kind of conversation with you, I think that's the ultimate definition of like true love to someone.
For sure. Also, let's normalize saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So many people have a hard time saying I'm sorry. It's 2 words. Maybe it's a pride thing, maybe it's an ego thing, but acknowledge your faults and be like, hey, I'm sorry. whatever situation that you're in, whether I hurt you, it wasn't my intention, or I messed up, I didn't mean it. But let's start normalizing saying I'm sorry, for real.
I agree. Something I'm holistically working on. I
Yeah.
think for mine, it's definitely a pride thing. It's not
I think
it's not an ego, but I think as a man, at least like a voice for me, it's tough because I try so hard to not be wrong,
yeah,
right? Or do something that requires an apology per se. And so then I just feel like more of an embarrassment
yeah,
when I do have to say it. And I think that's why it's a pride killer for me.
probably.
And so again, just trying to like reshape my perspective to it. Like I don't have to be like I don't have to feel less because I made a mistake. You know, and like really I can make someone else feel better by just saying this. It doesn't have to be a hit to me.
Yeah.
I don't have to chalk it up as a negative emotion for myself.
Right.
Because it's like inevitable. Like we're not perfect. You know, so like I'm gonna fuck it up. I'm gonna make mistakes.
Everyone
just
does.
being willing to I don't struggle to own it because I'm always willing to be like, hey, like that was on me.
You
know, like internally, it's never like, oh, maybe it's just like, no, like that was on me.
Yeah.
Like you fucked that up. Like I don't struggle there, but I think the vocalizing it outwardly to say like, hey, I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry it may have hurt your feelings. It's just really rooted in pride. I want to come back to one of the things you said, leading with love. You said that lead with love in everything you do. Can you share how this kind of shapes the way you navigate life and relationships with others?
You have to lead your life with love in everything that you do. And if you lead your life with love, you will always win. Always. Whether it's relationships, career, friendships, family, yourself. Love is the most powerful force in the world. You have to give it in order to receive it. It's just, it's what makes the world go round. It's just, it's beautiful. Love is beautiful. And like in all different aspects of love, right? We love our family differently than we love our friends.
Yeah.
We love our friends differently than we love our partners. I know for my future partner, I have a love inside of me that I have never or yet to give to my love of my life, my husband. And I'm so excited to give it to him, you know? And like we focus more on the love we receive, but if you're not giving it, you're not going to receive it.
Yeah. This made me think of this other quote by Jordan Peterson. So we're hammering on like relationships and love and whatnot. Is he's been asked prolifically, how do you find the perfect partner? And do you know who Jordan Peterson is?
Maybe if I saw him.
Okay. Oh God.
Should I look him up?
No, you should. Okay. That's okay. I can show you later. He's a great psychologist.
Okay. I've probably seen him on TikTok.
Yeah, no, you'd probably definitely have with the way you talk. Yeah, I think the feeds are probably synchronized. You've probably seen it. Anyway, he says that you don't find the perfect partner, you become it.
I've definitely heard this before.
And, and he says like you can't just go out there and find someone like that. Like who says you are the type of are you the type of partner you would want?
Yeah.
Are you mindful? Are you caring? Are you genuine? Are you loving? And it's like if you're not, then again, like we said, what do you think you're gonna find?
But a lot of people mistake that. Well, I gave this person so much love and they didn't give it to me back. No, they might have gave it to you in a different way. You were just expecting it to be the way that you gave it. So you got to differentiate that. Expect nothing, appreciate everything.
Yeah. I just think that a lot of people are like, I'm trying to find this type of man or this type of woman. It's like, just become the type of partner you would want to have.
Yeah, and everybody shows love differently. You just got to figure out, that's just the way that they show it. It's not that they don't like me or they don't feel the same. It's just different, and that's okay.
Yeah, I wish more women would take that mindset, because I think I am holistically less capable, despite being very articulate at articulating my verbal feelings.
Yeah, I think most guys are.
But I will sacrifice my time, money, effort.
Yeah.
Go out of my way to do something for you, and because it could create a convenience for you, but that will cost me time and money. Right. So I will place all those above that, but then it's I don't say I think you're so beautiful all the time. I do feel that that's a harder game for me to play, versus I'm like, hey, okay, I could do this for you, or I could do that, or I could move this around, hey, I'll take the car to get it fixed. So you don't have to, I'll take care of it. Or, hey, you saying I'll do this.
I would rather take the guy whose compliments are maybe minimal but mean something than the guy that is going to continuously compliment you but doesn't really mean it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree. Okay, last one.
Okay.
You said it's always you versus you. It's a perspective I continuously like take on and practice. Like you said, I do think I will go against you a little bit in the way of I think there is a value to comparison in a way that is healthy. Because if I look at someone who I compare myself to people who are really great runners, and I'm like, that's what I know I could be.
Yeah.
If I did certain things a certain way, or I see the success someone else has in their career, okay, what do I need to try and get to that? Like,
Yeah.
clearly there's something I'm missing. So maybe I'm a little bit full of myself in a certain way. So maybe it's like a humbling thing. 10 push-ups feels like a lot. So you watch a guy on the internet do 100.
I wouldn't call that comparing though. I would call that more like looking up to as a role model.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think they correlate closely enough that it creates a negative connotation to it.
Okay.
So that's my only pushback. But anyway, to get to the question is, how do you continuously challenge yourself to grow? Like, in what ways are you always like? Maybe that's a kind of a loaded question, but I guess what I'm really looking for from there is like, how do you separate yourself and create that proper awareness to say like, hey, I'm not pushing it as much as I could, and to say I actually need to get better at these things, whether that's listening, vocalizing how I feel, or maybe, in the gym today, like, I wasn't pushing it as hard as I could have. Like, and that's okay. Like, not every day is a 10 out of 10 lift. Like, anyone who's lifted knows that. But, like, in those avenues of your life, like, what do you really do to, I guess, kind of hold yourself accountable and see where you could grow?
Well, with fitness, it's just discipline. How many times do we wake up every day and be like, I can't wait to really push my workout today? Never. You know what I mean? Of course, I want to sit on the couch and order DoorDash and like watch TV all day long, but no, I'm doing it because I'm disciplined.
Yeah.
In other avenues in my life, I guess it's resilience too, but it's just more of a sense of you just got to be strong. Your mind has got to be bulletproof. You gotta have that mind of steel and just be like, this stuff's really hard, but the harder it gets, the more outcome I want. And that I'm going to receive. So like I said, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because you're never going to succeed in life if you're just going to remain idle and stagnant. Yeah. So keep doing those hard things, keep being uncomfortable. What I say too is I'm always trying my best. And if today wasn't my best as the day before, but you know what? I'm really trying. Yeah. And when you wake up every day and you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, you know what? I'm really trying my best to be a good person. Because there's the foundation there. You know what I mean?
No, I agree. I think the greater the challenge, the greater the reward.
Yeah.
Lies it like they move in the same direction. So if you're like, if you're wanting more, then you can't be mad that, like we said earlier, that there's a bigger challenge present. Like, the bigger the goal, maybe the more the uncertainty, right? Because if you knew you would win, it wouldn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there's a little uncertainty that, like, hey, like, I could do my best. I could give it my best every day, and maybe it won't be enough this time.
Yeah.
Like that reality is what makes it worth chasing. Is because then it's like, well, who could I become? And I think that's why, to tie it all back for me with running, and that's why I think it's something everyone should do, at least for some period of their life, is because when you first start running, and maybe you've never prepped for a race or anything, that was your first time to run. Like, a marathon seems like a long fucking way to run. I mean, it is. It is. But it feels like impossible to do because you look at what you can do right now.
Yeah.
Versus then you get to that point where you can do it, and it's like, holy shit.
Small wins lead to big wins.
They do. And the other quote by Alex Hormozy that I have is that it happens small till it happens big. So it's like these are literally like the small wins, the little things, like the little things. I talked about this with my therapist last week, because I struggle holistically with it, but I know other people do as well. That I struggle to give myself credit for the little things along the way. And if you don't do that, though, then the big thing that you eventually get to, you won't be able to really feel a whole lot with it too, because you never give yourself credit for the 99 things that made 100. If you're only counting a win every 100 wins, like, you're going to ignore a lot of credit that you owe yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a very dangerous game to play as well. So I guess the last question I have, genuinely, this is the last one, but
go ahead.
What is a quote or just point of view or perspective, something that you would want to share with people that maybe they could take something from?
Kindness has no enemy and compassion has no limit.
What does that mean to you though? Like what is
The
that? What's a use case of that?
when you're a kind person, how could anybody dislike you? You know what I mean? When compassion, you got to be compassionate for everybody. Like we said today, you don't know what people go through in their life. Everyone has a story to tell. If you show a little bit of compassion, you don't realize how much that can help them in their life.
Yeah.
And I told you the story about the girl at the gym.
Mhm.
She was, she was extremely overweight. I mean, she was maybe borderline obese, and you could tell that she was very uncomfortable being there. She didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
She had on this cute set. It was like this baby blue color matching top and pants. And I went into the bathroom and she happened to walk in there, and I just looked at her and I just said, "You have a really cute outfit. I really liked it." And genuinely, I really liked it.
Mhm.
And her whole demeanor changed. You can just tell that little act of kindness of like showing that compassion to somebody that changed her whole perspective of the gym probably. And now she's going to come back tomorrow and she's going to be happy because she feels comfortable.
Yep.
If you can show kindness to people just a little bit every day, I really think it can make the world a better place.
I agree. I think you get tenfold what you give.
Oh, absolutely. You're paying your rent in heaven.
Yeah.
For sure.
So like that kindness, that like just that little comment or that little gesture for someone, like
Yeah.
you don't know when you're going to get it back in a way that you'll really need it.
Absolutely.
And so it's always better that life's going good. Great. Like be kind, do that generous thing.
Yeah.
Give that compliment.
Mhm.
Life's going shitty. Like still do it anyway.
Do good, show love,
Mhm.
be kind.
I like that. Mine's by Gary Vaynerchuk. That's one I actually just pulled yesterday. And he says that it's all shit, but the shit doesn't matter. It's about the occasional sunshine that means everything.
I like that.
And what he's prefacing there is he's discussing that, like, you know, like how people would ask him all the time, like, how do you keep going? How do you keep pursuing these things? You know, like despite the losses or like the learning, like how much learning. It's like win or learn. Sure. Like that all sounds great. Like, right, it feels good in the head. But like when you're getting your shit kicked in, it's pretty hard to just be like, yeah, win or learn. You know, like he was asking, he's like, well, it's all shit.
Yeah.
Like it's all shit till like, but all the shit is worth that one time where it's not. And like that one time that it's not makes all of it feel worth it and then some. And so that one win is worth every loss.
Yeah.
That one time you hit it big is worth all the times that they said you're not going to hit it big, that you won't make it. Right. And then, but then if you look at it on times they were right to times you were right, well, if it took you 5 years to hit it big, for 5 years, every day they said, you suck, you're never going to make it. And for 5 years, they were right. And they were only wrong one time, but it's the one time they're wrong that it actually fucking mattered.
Yeah.
It's like, so yeah, all the shit doesn't matter because it's all shit anyway. So just go after and find that sunshine because it's going to mean something.
Absolutely.
Well, despite the inconveniences and the messy start,
it's all good. I had a great conversation.
Yes,
nice.
we did.
I hope a lot of people get something out of this as well.
I hope so.
I don't know what type of qualifications I have. I'm happy to share from experience.
Yeah. We're all just, like I said earlier, we're all just people with stories to tell.
Absolutely.
And no matter where you are in your life, I think that we can all relate to, there's someone historically who's been in a position you've been in. And so whether you get your knowledge by reading, listening, watching, like someone out there's been through what you've been through. So if you're really looking for it, you'll find it.
You can help others.
Yep. Well,
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Alex, for coming out today.
Of course.
And thank you everyone for listening, and I hope you enjoy it.